Welcome to the James Museum at St. Andrew High School. This morning we have Adrienne Joan Duperly, a former student of St. Andrew High School, a beauty queen in the 1950s, an educator, a museum planner, and an environmental activist.
Whoa, that sounds...
That is quite a varied career path.
Right.
First of all, I'd like you to tell us about your days at St. Andrew High School. Tell us about your favorite teacher, what lessons you learned at St. Andrew, and how St. Andrew was able to prepare you for adulthood.
Well, St. Andrews, I remember, most of all, I remember the feeling of lovingness among the students and closeness. And I think my favorite teacher was Tess Thomas. She taught us English, and I remember her very well. Probably because also she was involved a little bit in theater, which my mother was, so I also got to know her outside of the classroom.
Perhaps you need to tell us who your mother is. Because
that's my mother, Doris Duperly, and she opened the very first private lending library in Jamaica in 1937, I believe, Phoenix Library. And she was a part of the Little Theatre movement and the pantomimes starting from 1941. And so those were the sorts of people that I grew up with. At school, I remember my favorite things being the English class, and I was very much an outdoor person. For some reason, going to school here, I had a very big love of nature, probably a combination of living in Jamaica, being raised here. Nature has always been very important to me. And I think at St. Andrews, with the training that I got here, and coupled with the churches that we all attended, we were a church-going family, I believe that that gave a very strong sense of community and a sense of wanting to help others and share your gifts with others to the best of your ability. So from when I was young, I was a bit serious, I remember, and I didn't spend my time, I wasn't a party girl, so to speak, and I spent my time more with nature, and then I would go to the children's homes on weekends and that sort of thing. And as growing up, my favorite person to talk with was my grandmother. I think that may still be true of a lot of people, that the grandmother plays a very important role for speaking. So.
You mentioned about church. One of the points that we need to remind our audience is that St. Andrew was developed by the church, the Methodist as well as the United Church. Yeah. And they have played a very important part in the school.
Very strong,
right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned to me earlier about remembering going to church, to prayers in the morning.
I remember morning prayers was my favorite. I think I was the most sang the loudest of all. I think I used to get a couple of elbows saying, you don't have to sing so loud. It was great. I loved it. And we also, some of us here joined the Girl Guides. And, we went on field trips and anything for outdoors. I'm definitely an outdoor person who was attracted more to outside than inside, which is probably remained true through all of my life.
Well, you left St. Andrew in 1957.
Yes.
Which was about 16 years ago.
When I was just 16.
There have been a tremendous amount of changes, but you did mention that to me earlier that there were trees that are still existing.
I know there are. Some of them, I was wondering if perhaps, an idea would be to put some dates on some of those trees for people to realize how sacred they are, how old they are. I sometimes, over the years, the 55 to 60 odd years ago that I left from here, well, 60-something years, I often dream about the mango tree, and that's the first thing I went to look for. It's in front of the classes, in the middle, at the front of the building. And this lignum-vitae tree, I remember it well. So I think that the trees are also a very special feature here, because a lot of the other schools, they've simply put down everything and put up buildings. So I was happily pleased to see that
they have preserved the trees.
they preserved the trees. It's a very wonderful thing.
Yeah. The importance of maintaining the trees.
Yes, the area that we were in school was, it's still pretty well the same and very well cared for. But I noticed that there are a lot of new buildings and new assemblies and new areas. It was a lot greener, the property there, and more grass and so on. Yeah.
So I learned also that you are a former Miss Jamaica.
Yes.
Would you like to tell us your experience in St. Andrews, noted for producing Miss Jamaicas?
Yes, okay. Well, when I left school, then my cousin, by the way, who went to St. Hugh's, was Betty Holtz, and she and I we were the same age pretty well, and we grew up very close with the aunties and our cousins. My sister Margaret was also a student here. She was a wonderful artist, and I think that she won an award.
Margaret
Duperly, right? Yeah. And she won many awards for her art, and she went on to go to university at the age of 16. So she went to Stetson University in Florida. And so when I left school, then my sister took off, which I was used to, having my sister around. So Betty and I decided, someone had said to us, you should enter Miss Jamaica. And I must say that in those days, there weren't computers, and we had just gotten television in the last year or so. There was black and white TV, remember. I did not grow up with television. We had rediffusion. I can tell you a lot of the things were quite different. And the Jamaica Tourist Board, during those early days, the 50s, used the Miss Jamaica person to go out and promote Jamaica. So, it was a heavy agenda, but it was completely different than now. Everything was in person. Everything was live. There was no IT at all in those days. So I had an amazing year, but unfortunately, or fortunately, I'm not sure which, because actually I became Miss Jamaica, I was only 16 and a half. It was in June of 1958, and I was not turned 17. And I think I might have told a story when they asked how old I was. So I won the title, and then, but when I went to 4 countries. I went to the States on 3 occasions to attend festivals and beauty contests that they had there. I would always be as a guest of honor. So I would do a little dance and sing a little Jamaican song, evening time or something like that, and talk about Jamaica, because that's what you did in those days. You were actually sent, it was promoting the tourist board, promoting Jamaica for people to come and visit. And it was a wonderful experience. And then when I came back, I took a job on the North Coast at an inbound shop at one of the hotels. I had a great love of cosmetics, theatrical makeup, because being raised on the Ward Theatre, where I spent my weekends as a child when maybe other people were doing other things, I became fascinated by the idea of the makeup and how people could transform into other people in front of your eyes. So it was something that really interested me. So I went into that. I spent about a year doing that, and then I had met someone had come to Jamaica, and one of my father's friends, Mr. Ivan Levy, who ran Distributors Limited, and they were importing saltfish from Nova Scotia. And he phoned my family one day and said, we have someone here from Nova Scotia, and we would like to go to the Blue Mountain Inn for dinner. Would you let Joan come and make up a foursome? Well, needless to say, that is the person that I ended up marrying at 18 years of age, and not quite 19. And then shortly after that, I left for Canada, and I went to Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is much like Jamaica except for the winter. It's on the coast. It's a beautiful rural